Hello and welcome to the channel. If you're new around here, my name is Mel and I am a knitter and crafter living off the Orkney Islands off the north coast of Scotland. Thank you for coming back if you're a returning viewer. It has been quite a while, and welcome if you're a new viewer as well. It has been a fair while since I recorded. It was probably before Christmas, to be honest, and it's not often I take a large break from the podcast, but it was well needed, and I've definitely come back refreshed and kind of full of enthusiasm again. Because I have been away for so long, I do have quite a lot of projects to show you. So this episode is going to be all of my finished objects that I have finished, well, almost all my finished objects that I've finished over the last, what will be in April, 4, maybe 5 months since I last recorded. I think I did record at some point in December, but I could be wrong on that. So if I keep having to refer to my phone to remind myself of yarns and patterns, I do apologise. I suspect there will be quite a bit of that. I am not going to be showing my vanilla socks on this episode because there is quite a few of them and it would just make this episode incredibly long. I do have all of my projects with their notes on my Ravelry page, and I will of course link everything down below in the description box on my Ravelry pages and my other YouTube. Everything is all down in the description anyway, and I will link to the patterns that I reference as well. So beside me I have a pile of Colorwork socks. I have a pile of lacework socks. I have a small pile of large items and a small pile of small items as well. Apologies if I'm a little croaky this morning. I think I might be coming down with a cold. Okay, so where to begin? Let's start with the big items. One of which I don't know if I've shown on the podcast before. I might have been really small, and that is actually a crochet project, and it's the only crochet project here. This is a blanket that actually I've mostly just been working on over the last 2 or 3 weeks. I started this back in the autumn. It is a nice autumn coloured crochet, kind of a star shaped blanket. I started in this in the autumn because it is autumn colours, and then it got put on hold over Christmas gift knitting, and just I had a bit of castonitis at the beginning of the year, so it got put on hold for quite a while. And then I went through a bit of a few weeks of wanting to finish projects, and I thought this one won't take too long to finish. There are ends to weave in. I have not done that. I only finished this probably about 3 days ago. In fact, there's a lot of projects here with ends to weave in, and I think on a rainy afternoon I'm going to sit down and just do everything all at once. This one has come out quite large compared to the last one that I made. The pattern is the Rainbow Ripple Baby Blanket by Celeste Young. This is a free pattern on Ravelry, and it calls for, I think, DK weight yarn. I'm not sure. No, worsted weight yarn, and a 5mm hook. What I've used is a DK weight yarn, and I think I used a 5mm hook for this as well. This is my second one of these. The first one I think I knit in Lion brand yarn. I'm not sure what the range was. This one is in, no it wasn't, it was in King Cole. This one is in Yarnsmith's Elvis in the colorway Turbo, and it has come out really, really nice. I'm having issues with shadows this morning. It is a funny sort of weather light day, but we'll do our best. I love the colours of this. It has actually come out a bit bigger than my last one. I'm not sure if it is because the other one I made has been washed a couple of times and it was originally this size, because the yarns are almost identical. The they kind of have the same sort of feel. They've got like a chenille yarn sort of feel to them. They are both acrylic yarns, and they look the same weight. Maybe there's slightly more yardage on this one, I'm not sure. But this yarn, I wasn't as keen on using it as the King Cole one. This one has a squeakiness to it when you're working with a plastic crochet hook. The Lion, I keep wanting to say Lion Brand, the King Cole one didn't seem to squeak, or if it did, I don't remember it squeaking. This one was a bit squeaky, but the finished blanket is lovely, and it will wash really well because it's acrylic. Because my cats insist on sitting on my blankets on my knee with my knitting and everything, so it's like a big heap of everything, and of course we will get cat fur all over these. So it's a good job they wash well as an acrylic yarn. No good having wool blankets where cats are, or where our cats are anyway, especially as they like to click, 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 click. So that is my first project. And my second large project is one that's been on the needles for a few years now. And if you are a returning viewer, you will know this as the Big Boucle sweater. And I finally finished the Big Beige Boucle sweater. It is done. I will insert some footage of me wearing it. I did make several modifications to this, and it is very large. It is bordering on, well, I would say it's tunic size, not quite long enough for a dress. I wanted to use up all the yarn on this because I never want to knit this yarn again. I hated knitting this. Maybe hate is too strong a word. I didn't enjoy knitting this at all. The yarn that I used for this is Drops Alpaca Boucle, and it is, I mean, it feels lovely once it's knit with, don't get me wrong. It is a 80% alpaca, 15% wool, 5% polyamide mix, and it is in the colourway 2020, which I think is called light beige or something like that. It's just knitting with it. I didn't enjoy it, and it probably didn't help that I went down in needle size compared to what is recommended. The recommended needle size for this yarn is a 5mm, and I used, I think, a 4 or maybe a 4.5. Let me just check. I used a 4. So the needle wanted to go through all the little tiny loops of fibre, so I couldn't knit this without looking at my work. So when I was knitting, I was having to watch my needles all the time to make sure I didn't stab through the yarn as opposed to pass the yarn over my needle. The pattern I used was the Ori sweater by Audrey Borrego, but I only really used it as a base, and I will want to knit this again in the future as a proper DK weight sweater. I use this because I wanted an oversized V-neck cozy sweater, and I happen to have this pattern in my Ravelry library, so I've used this one. It does have moss stitch panels down the sleeves and across the bottom of the sweater. I did not use those, and it also has a ribbed V-neck band, which I also didn't do. The reason being is because of the yarn. Well, when I first started doing the shoulder part at the top, I started doing the moss stitch, and you can't see it. It was kind of pointless, so I just knit it in stockinette. It has folded knitted cuffs, so they just knit, then there's a row of purl, then knit again, and then folded in on themselves and tacked down. And the pattern calls for kind of like a 3 needle bind off. Well, not really, you're picking up these stitches and knitting them together to cast off the stitches. I didn't do that. I cast off the sleeve, then I folded the cuffs in and whip stitched them down. I also did the same for the V-neck band. I just did a knitted band, purl, one row, knitted and tacked it down again. In fact, I had to do this twice because the first time I did it, it was too big and loose and baggy. So I ripped it out and went down more stitches. I think I picked up less stitches. But when I tried it on, I didn't like how big and gaping the V was. So I actually knit a garter panel in just a V shape, and I kind of stitched that in as... Did I stitch? No, I knit it and then I reattached it. I attached it even after I had finished knitting the sweater. The bottom, I've just done I actually did a garter band, the same as the V-neck, just to create a flat band at the bottom that would kind of hang straight, and I bound that off in pearl, stretchy bind off. So I am very pleased with it. This is, hopefully I've inserted some footage somewhere in this chat. It is very large, it is very cozy, it is very warm, it's very lightweight. It weighs, I think, around 500 grams maybe. For the size of sweater, so I'm just checking on my Ravelry page, for the size of sweater it is fairly lightweight. I have used pretty much all of the, yes, 500 grams that I purchased of this yarn. But for the amount of weight, it is a very large garment. And because it is alpaca, or predominantly alpaca, it is very warm, very cozy. And this is kind of a keep warm in the house sweater. Or if I want to potter in the garden, I can keep warm because it gets quite cold up here. Or even if I'm away, like visiting mum or away in the van, then I can take this one lightweight sweater. It doesn't take up a massive amount of room for how big and how warm it is, and I can keep warm without feeling like I'm wearing a big heavy garment. So that is the big sweater finally done. Next up, what have we got next? Let's go with Colorwork socks. Get my sock blocker ready. I have a few. I like Colorwork socks, but only when the colourwork is on the ankles. And I don't particularly enjoy making Colorwork socks, but I do like the finished result of them. So last October, not the one, this one, but the previous one, I had made myself a pair of Colorwork Halloween socks, and I decided I was going to make a pair for John, my husband, as well. So this year, that is what I've done. I have made him very jazzy Halloween socks. These are part of his box of socks for this year. Well, the only year, because he doesn't wear his woolly socks as much as I do. Both socks are different. This one has skulls and spiders on, and this one has cats with bats and ghosties on it, and it is striped, and there was, yes, many ends to weave in on this. Not as many ends as some other socks I've done, but there was many ends, and the eyes on the cat and on the spiders have been duplicate stitched afterwards to stop all the very long floats, which were completely unnecessary if you weren't duplicate stitching. So these look really weird, and I'm going to explain why. What I've done is I've used what I would normally do vanilla socks. I've basically done my vanilla socks and then added in the Colorwork charts. So Turkish cast on, stockinette, increases for the gusset, toe up, of course, eye partridge for the heel turn. I have done a slip stitch columns for the heel flap. I have my hair all over these. And then I would normally knit the ankle and then the 2x2 rib, stretchy bind off. With what I've done is I've increased the stitches. My husband has very high arches, and well, he has very deep, large heels. So I have to make very large gussets to get off his feet anywhere. So the ankles, because Colorwork is not the same stretchiness as regular, you know, stockinette, I have increased the stitches from 60 stitches around to, I think it was 72. I think it was 72. And I've also increased the needle size on these as well. I have changed my technique since I've made these ones, but I did increase needle size and stitches. So I went from a 2.25mm needle working on the stockinette up to 2.75 for the Colorwork, which is why it looks really weird. But when these are on, well, he hasn't actually worn these ones yet. He's worn his Christmas ones. They don't sit like this. They look normal once they're on. They look weird when they're not on, but when they're on the foot, they look fine. The yarns I've used for these, the white is West Yorkshire Spinners in the colourway Marshmallow. The orange is Opal Yarns. I think I have the label for that one somewhere. I have so many project bags here and so many labels that I don't know which labels are where. I did organise all these before I started, but apparently there's too many of them. Opal in the colourway 5181. It's just a bog standard opal yarn, and I think it's just called orange. And the black is Drops Fable in black. So just some really basic yarns for these, and they come out really well. Very happy with them. Glad they can now go in the drawer, although they're not obviously going to get worn until Halloween. I also knit him some Christmas Colorwork socks. These ones, the shape is slightly different again. I think I still went up a needle size for these ones. Yes, I still went up a needle size for these ones. I hadn't changed my technique at this point. I forgot to tell you the pattern. The pattern for the Halloween socks. Goodness me, I am out of practice. The pattern is the Scare Me Socks by Lysandra Hoden. And I believe they are known by their French name on Ravelry, but I will link them down below. The Christmas socks that I knit for him are the Home for Christmas Socks by Morgan Mazavet, which I have probably completely mispronounced. But they are these lovely vintagey kind of Christmas vibe socks. These ones I've stuck pretty much to the colours again as the original pattern. It's not the same yarns, they're just quite similar. And again, I used exactly the same as I did before, my usual toe up vanilla sock pattern. It does have some colour work in the toe here. I think I went up stitch count as according to the pattern for this part, and then decreased the stitch count again back for the stockinette part. The chart, did I adjust the chart? No, I didn't adjust the chart. I thought I would. It doesn't look quite the same. Why does mine look slightly different? Huh. Well, that's strange. I'm looking at the picture on the front of this pattern, and my chart does not look like that. Oh, it does. I think it's just the way the sock's been stretched out. These have been worn and washed. I think it's because if I go like that, these look rounder, but when I go like that, it look different. Ignore me, I'm just imagining things. So I love these. I think they are so cute. These little cars with Christmas trees on. I love this at the top with the snowflakes. So for these, again, I did exactly the same. I increased stitches for the colourwork chart. I upped the needle size for the colourwork. I don't think I needed to up the stitches as much for these. Did I even increase the stitches? The yarn is so dark. I think I did, but I don't think I increased quite so many, hence why it's not quite so kind of big and bulbous as the previous ones. Because the chart is so long, instead of doing my usual long sort of 20 rounds of rib, I actually did a very short 1x1. Is it twisted rib? I can't tell if that's twisted or not. I think it's a 1x1 twisted rib, but I only did about ½ an inch of rib at the top because these were already really long and I didn't want them practically up to his knees I mean, they wouldn't, he's got long legs, but you know, I didn't want them over long. The yarns that I've used for this, again, I've used West Yorkshire Spinners in Marshmallow for the white. The red is West Yorkshire Spinners in the colourway Rouge. And the green is a... oh, which one is that one? That one is... I should have just got all of these labels out. Okay, this one is a Regia. It's Regia Ecoline in the colourway 3004. And the Ecoline is a recycled nylon in the yarn, recycled blend. And I think I've pretty much used up the last of that now. It has had a few projects. So that is Colorwork sock number 2. Then I knit a pair for my son, because my youngest was here for Christmas, and I will have to put a picture up on the screen here because obviously they were gifted at Christmas and he has took them home with him. These are the Tartar socks. Are they the Tartar socks, my version, that's what the pattern actually is called, by Amelie BJ, and these are a free pattern on Ravelry, and I adapted the pattern slightly to look more like the actual TARDIS. So I have squished down the windows because they were really tall. I've squished them down in length to make them more proportionately correct, and the window pane section has been made more correct as well. I just changed the charts to make it work, to make it look more like the TARDIS. My youngest is a Doctor Who fan, obviously, and I put less panels on it because otherwise it was going to be just way too long, these socks. And I did a short rib at the top in 1x1 for these as well. These socks I actually knit in a yarn I've not used before, which is the King Cole cotton socks 4-ply, because my son, I expect him to be able to put them in the wash machine without having to think about them. So I bought this yarn, and it is a 58% cotton, 38% nylon, 4% polyester, and they actually got washed a couple of times while he was up here, because he was up here for a few weeks, and they wash really well in the wash machine. I haven't, and they were just in with the normal laundry. I haven't actually tried them in the dryer because we don't have a tumble dryer anymore, but I suspect they would be fine as long as it wasn't on really hot. Normally I wash my knitted socks all together in one big batch on a wool cycle. This time I just put them in with this regular laundry and they washed perfectly fine. Very happy with them. The white I used was just a little bit of Drops Fable in black, and yet again West Yorkshire Spinners in Marshmallow for the white windows and the colourwork. The colour I used for the King Cole cotton is number 4763, which is Cobalt. Very happy with these. I will definitely use this yarn again, especially for gift knitting socks, where I don't know if the recipient, well, it's easy if the recipient just to be able to throw them in the washing machine, namely the kids. Yeah. Okay, more colourwork charts, more colourwork socks. I of course had to make myself some Christmas colourwork socks as well. These ones have been on my to-do list for, I don't know if I came across these like last Christmas, I'm not sure. Maybe, there are so many things on my queue, I've lost track of what's what, but I really wanted these ones for myself. Last year I made last year I made myself a pair of colourwork Christmas socks that had little mugs of cocoa on them, and I think that was my first colourwork socks, second colourwork socks. So I wanted some more for myself, and this time I went with these Christmas pudding socks. I think these are really, really cute. I love these. These are so cute. I love them. These are the Christmas pudding socks by Stone Knits, and I knit these usual vanilla sock recipe, except I used a 2mm. So the yarn that I've used is Regia Undyed for the cream colour, well, it's not cream, it's white, it's an off-white. because I didn't want a stark white. I thought it would look nicer with this hand-dyed yarn. The hand-dyed yarn I dyed myself. If you're new here, I used to be a yarn dyer. So I pulled out some of my old stock of bases and I used a BFL nylon base for this. I dyed up a skein in some nice mixed brown, like Christmas pudding, and I dyed up the kind of pinky peach colour for the background. Basically I wanted similar colours to the original design, except for the original design the colours look different on the pictures to what they actually are from the dyes you buy them from. So they've got filters and stuff on, and I didn't want the yarns that how they look really. I liked them how they looked in the filtered photos for the pattern, so I made my own. I still have quite a bit of this brown left actually. I think I have enough to make another pair of socks, because I did dye up a full 100-gram skein, so should be plenty for another pair at some point down the line. The red is just leftover West Yorkshire Spinners rouge, and I think a scrap of red that was so similar in colour that you couldn't tell the difference between them, so I used up that and some rouge, and I had barely enough red to finish this pair of socks. I think, I can't have used the rouge because that's the rouge, in which case I used the scrap that I had and I think a scrap of Drops Fable red. They were scraps basically, and I think I have the tiniest scrap of red yarn left over, so much so that I can't even find it. It's probably gone in the mending jar. The green is West Yorkshire Spinners again, signature 4-ply, in the colourway Spruce, and I think they come out really well. I'm really happy with them. I used a 2mm needle because I used hand-dyed yarn. Hand-dyed yarn bases tend to be thinner than commercial stock yarns, so I usually go down to a 2mm to get a nice fabric. So I increased my stitches to 64 stitches around instead of 60 stitches around. The toes, heel and cuff are done magic loop as usual with all of my vanilla socks, and I always do a 2.25mm regardless of what I've used for the main body of the sock. The colourwork chart, I didn't go up the needle size this time. I still increased stitches, but I didn't go up the needle size, and I didn't for the TARDIS socks either, because I don't know why I didn't on the TARDIS socks. For some reason I decided not to, and they actually were stretchy enough, they were fine enough without doing it. What I found was that the cotton yarn has more stretch in it than this colourwork chart in the wool does, but it still goes on my foot, over my foot fine. But it definitely needs the increase in stitches for the chart to do so. And I turned all of my colourwork socks inside out to knit the charts to give myself extra stretch, because I know otherwise the floats are going to be too short, and turning it inside out makes the floats stretch out longer naturally as you go around the circumference on a small circumference item like a sock. I did a slightly shorter cuff on these. I think I did 20 rows of 2x2 rib instead of 25. In fact, I might have even done less. There might actually only be 15 rows on these, looking at it, because normally I do 20 rows now, not 25 anymore. Yeah, so there must be 15 rows here. I think I just didn't want it to look disproportionate compared to the chart, so I went with a slightly shorter cuff. But I'm really happy with them, and I'm looking forward to wearing those next Christmas. I didn't finish them in time for Christmas, basically, so these are still new. I also knit, and I know, more colourwork socks. This is the last colourwork socks, I promise. I have had another pair of colourwork socks by the same designer, I think, since last Christmas. And these are not quite finished. All I need to do is duplicate stitch the little eyes on, and the beaks on the robins. I need to do black duplicate stitch for those. I will do that when I weave in all my ends. These are the Festive Robin socks by Stone Knits. Rubbish print out, black and white, no point showing you, but you can see the socks, so it's fine. I have used leftover West Yorkshire spinners in the Colorwork Robin, which I knit a pair of socks for my husband out of, and I eked out what was left of it to make these socks. If I'd wanted vanilla socks, I wouldn't have had enough, because I wouldn't have had enough for all this section where the colourwork is. But in a colourwork sock, there was just enough. I have very little left of this, and I had some very clever colour management to finish off my stripes so they were the same on both socks, because I wanted them to match. I wanted them to all finish at the same point and have the same kind of cuff on them, so I had to do some finagling with the leftover yarn, but I got there. My usual, as usual, vanilla sock recipe with the chart added. Still need a duplicate stitch, and this time I used some of the Robin colourway up the cuff and then added a pop of colour in the red at the top. This is West Yorkshire Spinners in Rouge for toes, heels and cuffs, and also for the Robin's body. The cream off-white colour is it's Regia undyed, and the brown, I wanted a very specific shade of brown for this. The only browns that I had in fingering weight yarn were quite a dark brown, and I didn't want that for these. I wanted them to kind of look more in line with this brown. So what I did was I wound off pieces of, I think it's Drops Alaska in this shade of brown, and I stripped the plies down to single ply. This is not a sock yarn. I'm hoping this is going to work out fine and not completely felt and shrink in these socks. It should be okay. There's not a lot of it, and it's in colourwork. It's not like it needs, it's shrinking in here somewhere. So I'm hoping this is okay. So I stripped some down to single ply and used it for the colourwork charts. Only the future will tell, because these have obviously not been finished, not been worn or washed. So we shall see how they go. So that is all the colourwork socks. Thank goodness. Let's do something else other than socks next. Let's do accessories next. We're slowly getting there. We're more than halfway through. I wanted to tick off some things off my queue. Back in the autumn, I started many projects, and one of them I wanted to do was knit a autumn hat with this yarn that I dyed a few years ago when I was a dyer. This is in merino nylon, and it is in the colourway patina. It was kind of like a test skein, and I loved it and I kept it. So I decided I wanted to knit a autumn hat with it, and that's what I've done. I have knit myself a slouchy tam beret style hat, depending on what you would like to call it, and it is one of the few hat styles that actually looks good on my head, because I have a fringe or bangs. I like a tam style that doesn't come down my forehead. Plus, although I do have beanies and sometimes wear them, I don't like the feeling of the hat on my forehead. All I end up doing is going with my eyebrows the whole time, because I feel like I need to lift the brim up all the time, and then I end up with eye strain and wonder why. So this sort of style of hat works really nice. It doesn't really work very well with the windy environment we live in, but I am thinking of adding some like wig clips. I did buy some. I'm not sure if they're actually in this project bag. They might be, or they might not be, but I bought some like little clips that you had, you know, you get those like streaks of hair extensions and things, and they have like a little comb clip on them, and you like put them in and go click. I bought some of those to sew into the brim of this hat. At least I think they go click. Anyway, they're little mini combs that you would add into like a wig or hair extensions and such like. So I can sew a couple of those into the brim of this hat, and then when you put it on you can kind of grip it, and then if it's windy my hat won't blow off. I did look into hat pins, but I think really it has to be more of a firm hat for a hat pin, like a traditional sort of like a 40s sort of like hat. And then you can, if they're a solid hat, and you can stab them with a pin. I don't think they really work with a slouchy tam very well. So I'm very happy with this hat. This one is the Leatrice hat by Louise Bier. I think it's French, so apologies for my pronunciation. No, hang on. This was on the Finicolana website, which is Danish? DK? Danish, yes. So maybe it's not French, maybe it's Danish. Anyway, the pattern is in English. It is a very nice pattern. It has this tam, it tells you how to make this in various weights of yarn and various sizes. It is a very good pattern. It tells you how to work in like 1 strand of fingering or 2 strands held double, or like an Aran weight and a chunky weight, and head sizes from 54 inch to 61 inch head circumference. So it has quite a good range and options and such like. So it can go from like, I wouldn't say a small child, but you know, like a small person up to large headed person, quite well, and in various thicknesses of yarn. So I'm very happy with the pattern and can highly recommend it. And I'm very happy with my hat, and it looks, I just love it. I think it looks really nice, and I'm really happy with how the colours have come out. I have no idea if that's on camera, but hopefully it is. I have not blocked this yet. I should probably put it around a plate and a bowl. I might do. I'll see how I feel. But I haven't done that yet. I also knit a second hat. This one, I actually have had this pattern for quite some time. This is the Norrie hat by Gudrun Johnson. And I've had the yarn for this for as long as well. I'm trying to find the beginning of round and I can't find the back. There it is. So this is a DK weight hat that you can wear kind of semi-slouchy like that, or you could wear it more, it's going to look really weird with my fringe, but like kind of more like a slightly slouchy beanie style. It is supposed to be slouchier than this, but I'd seen other people make it less slouchy with just a little bit, and I liked the look much better. This is a DK weight yarn, and I will try and find the label for this one because I can't remember what the yarn is. It's not one that I've used very often. I've used it once before. I have got so many project bags here and I cannot find the label. Just one moment. Okay, I did find it. It is a pseudo yarn. It is Pseudo Sublime. It is a baby cashmere merino silk DK is what it says. And it is, I really could do with putting my glasses on. It is 75% extra fine merino, 20% silk, 5% cashmere, and it is a DK weight yarn. This is in colorway 275, which I believe is called Nutmeg or Nutkin. I think it's Nutkin. So I made the hat. I made one lace repeat less than the hat pattern calls for. It has cat's paw lace bands and it has garter ridges, and it has a nice garter brim on it as well. I suspect this yarn is going to be quite pilly because of the cashmere and the extra fine merino, but because it's a hat it won't be too bad. The needles that I used were, I used a 3mm needle for this, for the hat, and then what I did was, what I had left over is I made a matching cowl as well, just using the same lace pattern, but I actually changed the needle size for this and went to a 3.5mm knitting needle. Because this is a hat and it's got a nice kind of, I wouldn't say it's dense because it's still drapey, it's nice and close for keeping out the weather. I didn't want that kind of, not stiff, but I wanted more of a slouchy feel for the cowl. So that's why I went up with the needle size, to just make it a bit more slouchy. And I did the cat's paw lace for this and the garter bands, and just kind of matched it to the hat as best I could. I'm very pleased with how it's come out. It fits nice. It's not like a big slouchy cowl. It's a nice close one without being tight to your neck. And it's just a nice one to put like in the collar of a jacket or something like that. Very happy with it. And I've used up pretty much all of the yarn. There's just a little, like a little ball left. And that used 4 50-gram balls of yarn to do both of them. So 200 grams, slightly less than 200 grams to make the hat and the cowl. Very happy with it. And yeah, so that is the Nori. And that is all of the accessories. So I'm afraid we're back to socks, but not as many as the Colorwork socks. I have lace socks. I have many socks in my queue, lace work socks in my queue. And I wanted to get through quite a few of them. I've had the Winterberry socks by, hang on, name is eluding me, and it is not on the pattern. It's the same person that does all the other ones. So let me see, it is by This Handmade Life. Of course it's by This Handmade Life. I've had these in my queue and on my winter to-do patterns and my make 9s for a couple of years now, and I wanted them done, and they are now done. This is a lace and bobbles pattern. I'm not the biggest fan of bobbles usually, but I learned to make bobbles differently by watching an Andrea Mowry tutorial on how to make bobbles. And it's one where you don't have to turn your work. You just work back and forth across the stitches, and it's a complete game changer. They're not having to turn your work when you're making a bobble. Brilliant. Don't mind bobbles in the slightest now. So I have made them. They are looking really bright on camera and blown out. This is a dark burgundy. Like, it's brighter than my top, but not by much. Even that looks really, really bright. It is more of a plummy burgundy than it's showing on camera. Again, I just used my vanilla sock recipe, and what I did to make the berries on the pattern hang down, but they're a top down sock. So all I did was I turned the lacework pattern upside down, and that's all I did. So where you've got increases, you've got decreases. So right, so if there's I can't show it on camera, but oh, they're cables, but the cables are the same whichever way up you do them. So I just literally turned the lacework chart upside down and did them toe up. So now I have the Twinkleberry socks done, and I'm really, really happy with them. The yarn that I used for these is the Drops Fable in colour 113, which is burgundy, and yep, that's all I used. So really, really happy with them. Finally out of the queue. Now I have quite a few of This Handmade Life's patterns, lacework patterns on my Ravelry queue, and I've wanted to get through them, but lace socks is not something I do on a regular basis because it takes so much longer than a vanilla sock. So I thought, well, why don't I do them in DK weight and just make DK weight socks, which I want more of because I like them for on an evening after a shower, sort of like cozy socks, but add the charts to them. So that's what I've started doing. So first up we have, which one's this one? I think, I'm looking at my socks again, which chart is that one? This is the Sweet Woodruff chart, and they are for fingering weight, but I'm not doing fingering weight. I am doing DK weight. I am doing Drops Fiesta and inserting them, which is not looking great on camera. This yarn, I've used a few of the Drops Fiesta and a few of them for lacework, but for some reason this yellow one doesn't show lace up very well at all, and I thought this one would work quite well, but it doesn't. I started another pair of socks in this yarn and had to rip back and start this one instead. But you can kind of see, if I get the light just right, they've got these kind of zigzags going on, and there is a twisted cable up the sock as well. So these are Drops Fiesta, like I said, and I have a few Drops Fiesta socks that I've made now. So we've got these ones, which are in the colourway Dandelion Dream, which is number 22. And for my DK weight socks, I need a drink of tea. vanilla socks, but just adjusting the numbers. So I cast on 48 stitches around, 24 stitches for top and bottom. I increased the gusset by 8 stitches either side. I do less on the ankle. I think I have 30 rounds on the ankle and 15 thereabouts rounds of rib for the cuff. I just do the exact same with the socks, but I increase the stitches and I increase my needle size. These are all knit in 2.75 millimeter needles, 9-inch circulars. Again, very happy with them. I have ends to weave in. I've also just remembered I have another accessory. I'm going to talk about that briefly. I made a tea cosy for Mum, and I will have to put the photo on the screen because it has been gifted for Mother's Day. I knit the Beehive Tea Cozy by Patterns. It is a free pattern, and I knit this in Drops Alaska in the colourway Mustard, which is number 58, and I added a little bee to the top in, I got that pattern off Ravelry as well. It is called Be Tiny and Cute by PVRL Magic, and I will link everything down below. This pattern was dead easy to make. Very, I wouldn't say it's super quick, but it was really easy. It made for a nice thick squishy tea cozy. The hardest part was knitting the bee. Fiddly little tasks are the hardest ones, so I'm just, hopefully I've shown some pictures of that in there as well. Okay, back to charts. We have got a pattern, oh, we'll do the Winter Frost ones next. Again by this Handmade Life, another one of her free patterns. This one is in Drops Fiesta again, and I'll try and get it to show up. There we go. It's got a very simple kind of like a V lace going on in there. This is in Drops Fiesta colourway 37, which is Fairy Lights, and made the exact same way as the other ones. And I can't remember if I reversed the chart for this. The V is good at it. I didn't even bother reversing the chart. I knit them as is, and instead of the V's going down, which is what they should do in the pattern, my V's go up. And because they're called Winter Lights, Winter Frost, they look like little trees, little pine trees. So it didn't matter that they were upside down. Very pleased with them. Made the exact same way as the previous socks. There is the original pattern. If it'll focus with me on screen, but it's just the V's go the opposite direction. But yeah, more cozy DK weight after shower socks. And I think we're down to the final pattern. These ones are by The Cat's Meow, and the pattern is called Paw Tracks. And it is very similar, I'm not sure if it's exactly the same, but it's very similar to the cat's paw lace in the Nori hat, except that these come on a sock pattern. I love these. These show up really nicely on this pink Fiesta yarn. Very happy with them. They're very cute. Little cat paws, little cat paw prints. I've just done a band of them up one side of the sock, and the other sock is like the other side of the top of the sock. Very happy with them. These ones are again in Drops Fiesta in the colourway 32, which is Strawberry Ice Cream. This is a really pretty colour. This would make a very pretty sweater, I think, this yarn. It's quite evenly speckled, and it's just a very nice shade of pink. And it's DK weight. Would make a good nice sweater. So I think that's everything. I'm just checking, and other than vanilla socks, I think that's everything. Thank goodness, because I am gasping for a cup of tea now. So, quick update. Yes, I am back on the channel. In fact, I'm back on all 3 channels. Yes, I have 3 channels. I will link them all below. I have a van life channel with my camper and camping and stuff, and I have a homestead channel. but they're down below. And I have this channel, and I'm back on all three. I have footage to edit and videos to put up, and I am firing on all cylinders as far as recording is concerned. I think the spring has helped, you know, it's just energy is much higher and feeling good and wanting to do all the things. So hence why I'm recording today. In fact, I don't know, maybe I'll get my whip video recorded today as well. It won't be going up the same day as this one because my upload speeds here are so slow. They are they're like 1 megabyte upload speed. We have really bad internet here. Our download speed's only 3. Yeah, so hopefully when we have faster internet I can upload more frequently. So they will definitely not be going up on the same day, but I will aim to get this one out as quickly as possible, and the second video, which will be all the whips, will be coming very soon as well. I have a few whips that I'm working on. I have everything. I cast on so much at the beginning of the year. I have about 3 garments. I have a shawl that's 90% finished. I have more socks, so there will be more coming. So I hope you'll come back for my whip parade, as it were, and see where I'm currently at. Okay, so I think I'm going to leave this video here because I suspect it's going to be getting on for an hour long, which is going to take ages to upload. So I shall see you on the next video, and thank you for watching through to the end, and I shall speak to you again soon. Bye bye.